Welcome to the Glassworking shop. This is part 3. Here we go! Which is a kind of a sad thing when I think about all the projects that I've made in over 60 years of making stuff. All I remember is the mistakes and the imperfections and, oh yeah, that one was really good, but that one was almost great, but looks like it's holding together. I don't believe there is any danger of collapse at this point. I think my weld to my moil is really solid. And of course, I'm going to be further solidifying it as the squeezing process approaches its conclusion. I'm using the NQALHA at this point because I can see that the corners are not in danger of being overheated. As I get a little more heat into the piece, I think I'm starting to see something I don't like. And so one of the pieces that I had just assembled looked to be curling up a little, so I think it's time for a squeeze. Standing on the squeezer. Actually kind of pleasant in the hot shop right now on a cold January day in Northern California with a historic storm on the way. And boy, we sure need it. It has been scary dry out here. The ends of a big piece like this are going to be the coldest part. The far end, the non-moil end, is exposed to the air and it's losing heat. The moil end is exposed to the moil, which is a heat sink, which is hot but not as hot as the glass, or else it wouldn't be stable. So I need at this point to start preferentially heating the ends in order to get uniform heating throughout. And of course, as I've said many times, glass is an insulator. One of my teachers long ago taught me, even if you think the outside looks ready, it may look ripping hot, the inside is still cold and crunchy. Takes a long time to soak heat into the core. Standing on the squeezer and holding, and actually, despite what I said about the difficulty in predicting, I predicted that this would be a 2-inch on a side triangle, and it's becoming an almost perfect 2-inch on a side triangle. So maybe my intuition is improving a little. standing on the squeezer. I'll flatten out that bottom a little. I got a whole bunch of kind of cut off punty stubs on the bottom. A bit better. Even with the Delta Mag, it takes a long time to drive the heat into the core of one of these big pieces. And like I said, this isn't, for the guys I know that do big stuff, this is not big at all. For anybody who's never done anything this big, prepare to be shocked. Big work is very, very, very different from small work. I'm now safe putting a little more heat into the surface because cold glass is an insulator and it's very easy to overheat the surface of cold glass. But once the glass gets some core heat, it becomes a little bit better conductor of heat. And it becomes easier to get the heat into the core with a more intense flame on the outside of the piece. What you saw me doing there, using the graphite paddle, when I first invented the squeezer, I thought it would be an awful lot more automatic. Just put it in the squeezer and the squeezer does the job. Just put it in, walk away. But it's not the way it is at all. The squeezer does what it does, and it does it really well. But there's also adjustments, technique, finesse, and just overall learning how the tool works. Trying to get some heat into the moil, and some heat into the end. I feel it drooping just the tiniest little bit. Looks like it's going to be an almost perfect 2-inch on a side triangle. Wowie zowie. I actually did predict it, and not using CAD or math, just intuition. Just, hey, that looks like it should work. I see another spot where I need to add some clear. Or maybe I can just, yeah, push down this way and close it up. Yeah, that did the trick. I want to get a really, really nice connection to the moil so that when I pull this sucker, I can get the most usable yield of material while minimizing the waste in the knuckle. That is much better now. It is very close. Definitely getting heat into the core. See a little bit of droop, which indicates that the core is softening. Standing on the squeezer, and yes, the squeezer was designed for it. When I first built the first prototype of the squeezer, I used not quite as strong components because I didn't realize how much force would be necessary. But after a few uses, I realized, wow, it takes a lot of force to squeeze glass. I've got one troublesome side. That fixed it up very nicely. The guy is almost ready to go. This side is almost ready to go. And this side is oh so close. I've got my pre-made puller in the kiln, ready for action. Just have a tiny bit more a few little tiny gaps to consolidate. This may very well be the last squeeze. Standing on the squeezer, letting it sit, standing, standing, standing. And wow, that's a big boy. So now, chrome suit. Go out in the shop and get the welding gloves, my pre-made puller, one of the nice things about the NQALHA, you can keep a piece hot in the back flame while doing handwork in the front flame. Sound will probably be a little weird with the face shield on, but hey, it's hot in the hot shop. People who haven't done this scale of work have no idea how much radiant heat there is. Okay, time to switch to handwork. want the moil to be ripping hot and the piece I'm sticking to be hot enough to stick. But not excessively hot. So I'm not going to be pulling on the NQALHA, but I am using it to hold the workpiece while I get the welding gloves on. I've been thinking about the possibility of developing a technique of pulling on the NQALHA. Just haven't been able to figure it out. I should have a decent amount of internal heat from all of the working and the squeezing, but it's going to take a while here on the Delta Mag to get this guy ready for pulling. This is an uncomfortable position. The glass is heavy, it's at a weird angle, it tends to want to slump in between. I'm struggling to keep my hands parallel, to keep the two punties parallel. Getting a little bit of softening in the glass. Pulling round things is a challenge. Pulling triangles is even more of a challenge. Still struggling to maintain parallel hand position. Hard enough to do it on small pieces. But working at this scale is extra difficult. Very hard to avoid twist doing this kind of work. Fortunately, I will be resizing these pieces on the squeezer before they're used, so it's not necessary to get them perfect, but I always try to see how good can I do. So I'm starting the pull. fumble around with my foot pedal here. I'm attempting to pull this with as close to zero knuckle as I can do, given the limitation of my skills. Bit of a thick spot in the middle, but overall it's coming out pretty good. Now I'm trying to get some heat into the piece. I can use the diamond shears and get rid of this puller. There we go. So that is the piece. And they're never perfect, but I'll make it perfect. Next step is resizing in the squeezer. So yeah, wow, that was something. did not fail. More or less, everything went more or less as planned, more or less as designed, and I'm optimistic that the result is going to be really good. So thank you for watching. It's been fun.